Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, Briar-Greaves Insurance are the best people to work with. So visit briargreavesinsurance.com for more information or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. It is a Wednesday edition of the show. Hello to everybody that is just filing into the Pewter Report podcast. We had such a fun show on Monday. We had another fun show on Tuesday recapping the OTA practice by the Buccaneers. But the reason why we had so much fun on Monday is because we had an all-time podcast with Bucs head coach Todd Bowles. And there's only been a couple of times where we have recapped a previous podcast episode that wasn't just talking about a Buccaneers game. The last time we did it was with Dave Canales when he was the offensive coordinator of the Bucs. So we're bringing it back for this episode, analyzing the Todd Bowles Pewter Report podcast, because there were so many different things that were said. It was funny. It was informative. We learned more about this Bucs team. We learned more about Todd Bowles as well. So we're going to play some clips. We're going to talk about the show one more time and, get into some comments and super chats and all that good stuff too. So I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. Scott, how are we doing?
We're doing great, Matt. And, we would have done this yesterday, but we had Bucs OTAs. So they took precedent because that's actual football on the field with players running around, catching passes, picking passes off, knocking passes down, and everything in between. And this Todd Bowles podcast has been one of our best podcasts. And I'm not just bragging on us because it's ours, but it was great because everybody on the staff contributed some questions.
Yes.
Some of the best questions actually came from you guys, the Pewter people, with those super chats. They got some of the best responses from Coach. We'll play some of those as well today. And the interesting thing is, and I didn't see Good Morning Football this morning, but NFL Network asked permission to use a segment of the Todd Bowles podcast on Good Morning Football this morning. So hopefully they used it. If not, maybe they'll use it tomorrow. And I believe was it 4:00? Yeah, on NFL Live today on ESPN, they're going to be using part of that as well. So Todd did a great job. I mean, he came through with a great performance on the podcast. Very informative, broke some news, and it was just, I'm thrilled with how it came out. You never know going in with the guest how they're going to be, but we know a couple things. Zion McCollum's a really good guest. He brings the news every time he comes on, very entertaining, informative, and I think Todd Bowles is right in that class. So Zion and Todd, they're two peas in a pod. They both have a lot of mutual respect for each other. Todd has called Zion my guy, multiple times for several years now, and it was great to have Zion on earlier in the off season, and then Todd as well. And it's, we're just getting warmed up here because we have some other guests lined up this summer. And the next one on the docket is Jason Licht, Bucs general manager. He will be on the show next Monday at 4:00. That's June 9th, 4:00 here on Pewter Report TV. So make sure you are in attendance for that. We're not going to be doing roll call because we're going to go the full hour with Jason Licht, but we'll do roll call next Tuesday during the Bucs OTA shows that we have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week lined up. So that's pretty cool, but we're not done with the week yet. We have this show to get to today, and we're going to get Matt Matera's reaction because it was myself and Bailey Adams who are hosting the show on Monday during Todd's appearance. But tomorrow, Bailey and Matt will be on breaking down the Bucs player rankings according to PFF, and that's going to be an interesting show because PFF, they're high on a lot of Buccaneer players, and they're surprisingly low on some others. So Bailey and Matt are going to be breaking that down for you tomorrow at 4:00 here on Pewter Report TV. And on Friday for our Pewter Insiders, Matt and I are going to be having the conversation. Can the Bucs win a Super Bowl with Todd Bowles as the head coach? Has our opinion changed on that? That'll be Friday's show at 1:30. If you're a Pewter Platinum or Premier member, you get access to that. And we're looking forward to a couple more podcasts. But we got a big show today, Matt.
Yes, we do. We're going to break down a little bit of everything from Monday's conversation with Todd Bowles. And I thought, first of all, it was just so much fun, the collaborative effort of the entire Pewter Report staff. I appreciate Bailey Adams coming into the show for me, but being able to write some questions. I felt like a ghostwriter, writing a song right. or something like that, with some of my questions going into the show as well that Todd Bowles was able to answer. And I thought what was so interesting, too, is to me, it took a couple of minutes for Todd to warm up a little bit.
Right.
The first, 10 minutes he was answering questions, it was a lot of kind of like how he is at the podium, a little bit like short, verbatim, to the point, and everything like that. But the more that he kind of conversed with you and Bailey, and the more that we went from different topic to different topic, it wasn't necessarily us grilling him. And there were a lot of important questions that were asked about, why are you playing in the corner so well? What's up with Hassan Reddick and all those things? But I think the big thing for me, we spoke about this, is that players and coaches get asked similar questions all the time. Like if you go on ESPN and then you go on CBS or whatever show that you're on, you're getting asked similar questions. So to me, the big thing on shows like this with Todd Bowles and with Jason Light coming up on Monday is, what is Bowles going to give you different than what he's going to say to ESPN and CBS and NBC and all of that stuff? And that's what I enjoyed the most about Todd Bowles. But to me, it really started off with him talking about Hassan Reddick and the fact that all these people are going so crazy about Hassan Reddick not being there for OTAs because they think it's a bad look. And Todd Bowles is like, don't worry about it.
Expect Hassan Reddick to be there this week, or is he going to be there for mandatory minicamp, or is he coming this week, or do you think he's going to be there next week only? And how excited are you to see your pass rusher in action?
I'm excited to see him. Again, all this is voluntary. He's not the only one that's here, but I know he's working out and he's working hard. So when he gets here, we'll be excited to have him, be it this week in OTAs or be it next week in minicamp. I don't think it's as big a deal as it used to be with guys like that are working out and they're going to be in shape when they come in. So, we look forward to seeing them when we see them.
Yeah, and as I mentioned in a recent Pewter Pulse video, it's not like he's been away from the facility. He was actually took part in some of the phase 1 work with the teammates.
Yes, he did.
Well.
I mean, he puts in a lot of work, and he works out hard, and he has a very good trainer that he trusts that they get the work done, and he's putting that kind of work in right now.
So I understand the concern based on what happened with the holdout last season with the New York Jets and the lack of production and the fact that he didn't even really play that much last year. He missed the first month. So wouldn't you want to be rip-roaring, ready to go and everything like that? But to me, until next Tuesday when mandatory minicamp starts, until we don't see Hassan Reddick not showing up, I'm not going to worry about it just yet. Again, partially because of the relationship that Hassan Reddick has with Larry Foote, who's going to be his coach, the outside linebackers coach this year. I think it's the perfect storm in all the wrong ways of what happened with Hassan Reddick last year and the Jets and what happened with Randy Gregory last season and the Bucs. And because you're intertwining all of that, and because they played the Jets so early in the season, and some Jets media were quote tweeting all of the Hassan Reddick not here, and then Pro Football Talk is discussing it as well. It just made for a headline that's not necessarily needed as a headline, but it's going to get talked about because people like chaos for whatever.
Oh yeah, and the recency bias, right? What happened last year with the Jets and Reddick, and what happened here last year with Randy Gregory. Well said, Matt. I totally agree. And I'm with you. If he doesn't show up on Tuesday, then sound the alarm, right? But right now, these are voluntary. And Hassan Reddick, and we did see Vita Vea and Levante David. They didn't practice, on Tuesday, but they did pop up and they put on some jerseys and walked out there and supported their team a little bit. When you're around 30 or over 30 and you have a routine and a regimen that has allowed you to play in the league for close to 10 years or maybe more, you stick with what's working. And a lot of these guys like to have their own personal trainers and their own workouts. Shoot, Mike Evans.
I was about to say, no one questions Mike Evans.
That's right. He splits his time between Galveston, Texas. He's not even in the state of Florida half the offseason. And then in Tampa as well. And he shows up when he has to and does what he has to do. And it's no big deal. As I said in the Pewter Pulse video, it's not like Hassan Reddick doesn't know how to rush the passer. It's not like Hassan Reddick didn't have to drop in coverage or fill a gap in the run game. He knows how to do those things. Are there some intricacies he needs to learn about Todd Bowles' defense? Absolutely. Does he need to develop some chemistry, rushing opposite Yaya Diaby and with these defensive tackles when they do stunts and twists? Of course. That's what training camp's for. They'll have 4 weeks to get all those little details down. But by and large, it's almost a blessing that he's not there, because guys like Chris Braswell and Marquise Watts and David Walker and Jose Ramirez are getting the reps that they need to help develop as very young players that they wouldn't get as much if Hassan Reddick was there during OTAs.
That's also very true. It's a very young group at outside linebacker after, Hassan Reddick, and, Yaya's still only going into year 3. It's still relatively pretty young in his career. Anthony Nelson Shirley has been there for a while as well, who could be a future head coach, as Todd Bowles talked about too. So I get why some people want to get into that storyline. But if Hassan Reddick does show up for mandatory minicamp next week, and he does show up for training camp, he's already leaps and bounds ahead than what he was doing last season. So as long as he's going to have plenty of time to know the defense. And I think based on what we've heard, what we've seen, what was discussed on Monday's show, I think a lot of it with Hassan Reddick is just going to be like, hey, man, get to the quarterback.
That's right.
Get to the quarterback, and that's all we're going to ask of you, and take the ball away a couple of times.
That's right. Yeah.
I wouldn't worry too much, Bucs fans, about Hassan Reddick not being there at a voluntary practice. But next, Todd Bowles got into the schedule a little bit. His thoughts on the Bucs having a bye in the middle of the season, and playing the Falcons week 1 and that revenge factor. So we'll play 2 videos in a row. His overall thoughts on the Bucs schedule, and then specifically playing Atlanta in the first game.
The placement, I think, is very good. This is the first time I think we play a late Thursday game. You know, usually the Thursday night game is a little earlier, and that's kind of a mini bye, but we don't have that right now. The Thursday night game is probably much later in the season that we're used to, which is pretty much in December for the most part. And we the rest of it, you kind of just go with it. You kind of know who you're playing. It's just a matter of where you play them at. For me personally, I always look at the cold weather games in December, which Buffalo is down there. Hopefully that's not as bad.
Right.
Other than that, I mean, it's going to be a tough schedule every year. When you come in first place, you're going to get a first place schedule. Yeah. You're going to play some opponents, so you get to test your mettle.
Who is your biggest rival in the South? And is there anyone that like a team that really just kind of gets under your skin in the South the most?
I think all of them. I don't want to lose to any of them. Honestly, it's critical to win division games, and I know it feels like Atlanta, but you can't sleep on Carolina, and New Orleans is always tough for us. So it's all of them for me. Division games are extra big because they kind of count for a game and a half in the standing.
What are your thoughts at getting Atlanta so early and opening up the season with them?
I think this is the first time we've had a division foe so early in the season, at least since I've been coaching. So it'll be the first game, so it'll be exciting. It'll be down there, and the 2 exciting games we played last year, obviously it'll be a lot of fanfare there. So we hope to clean up a lot of things. I know they'll be a different team and a better team, and I know we'll be a different team and a better team. So we just look forward to it when it comes.
What is it that has made you guys so successful in week 1 under you as the head coach?
The guys' preparation, getting ready to play. We have a good mix of coaches and a good mix of veterans that really get these guys prepared for the first game. And we have some situations in practice that they go through battleground parts of it, especially the new guys. So when the first game comes around, it's pretty status quo for us, and you don't know what to expect from the other team. They don't know what to expect from you. So it's really premium that we concentrate on our keys and make sure we do our assignments until we get a bunch of film on people. The first 3 or 4 games are going to be tough.
So I love the fact that they play Atlanta week 1, because I don't think anybody in the Bucs organization, in the building, and Coach Bowles as well, is satisfied with one, losing to Atlanta twice, and two, how the season ended. So it's almost a double whammy of
that's a great point.
It's almost a double whammy of how angry they are at the way the season ended with the botched snap with Graham Barton and everything like that. And then they get to take it out on a team that beat them twice, that really shouldn't have beat them once, let alone twice, especially in that Thursday night game against Atlanta. And the other thing, first of all, I love the Bucs schedule. I love that they have a Monday Night Football game week 2, and they can set the tone and be like, hey, national media, everybody, we're here to be a legit contender this year if they could smoke the Texans. I love that they have a middle of the week bye. I love that their Thursday night game is late in the season, which Coach Bowles alluded to. And I love the fact that their other primetime games are bunched together in a good spot where it's not all insane, but I think the Bucs will be in a good stride when they do play that game.
I agree.
The last thing, and you and I spoke about this at practice yesterday as well, is the fact that I think one of the reasons why the Bucs have been so good in the first game of the season is because there has been this offensive coordinator carousel. You heard Coach Bowles just say it in the video of where, week 1, you're just watching a lot of tape of last season and their tendencies and all these different things. So when you go from Byron Leftwich to then Dave Canales to then Liam Cohen, and now this year with Josh Grizzard, your opponent who you're going against, they're looking at one thing and then getting a completely different look. I mean, and I know they struggled against the Vikings that first game when Dave Canales was the offensive coordinator, but they went from watching Byron Leftwich to being like, okay, Dave Canales, he's never called a play at the NFL level before. And then Liam Cohen was so different as well. So I think and I know it's Josh Grizzard he was here last season, but I think just having a completely different wrinkle in week 1 compared to a bunch of other teams, especially Atlanta in this case, is going to be a big time advantage for the Bucs.
I agree. And you mentioned that first game with Dave Canales against the Vikings. That's a hard place to go up there and win. And they did. And they scored 20 points. And that was a big deal for Dave Canales and the Bucs right out of the gate, because that was already better than what they did under Byron Leftwich with Tom Brady at quarterback. They averaged 18 points per game. So they already started off with a 20 burger, if that's a thing. It seemed like a Herculean number. Like, wow, they scored 20 points and they won on the road. This is already better than it was last year with Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield's first game, right? So there was a lot of newness there. And I agree. The other thing too is Matt, in these 3 games under Todd Bowles as head coach, they've won all 3 season openers. And 2 of those have been on the road, at Minnesota and at Dallas. So that, I think, bodes well. The preparation that they put into this, listen, if you give Todd Bowles time, he'll beat you. I think it's hard for any coach 1 week, all the way through the season to really get that prep time. But you kind of see that with Todd Bowles the first 2 weeks of the season. Remember, this team has gotten off to some 3-1 starts. And I think part of that is because and I think part of the reason why they wanted Detroit in week 2 is because Todd Bowles and the coaching staff, you're able to put some time into those first 2 games, because that's really kind of before injuries start to mount. It doesn't do any good to sit there and start prep for the Buffalo Bills or the Rams right now, because who knows if Josh Allen's going to be the quarterback? Who knows if Matthew Stafford's going to be the quarterback, right? Injuries happen. But those first 2 games of the season, you can study on that. You really can do some advanced preparation for that. And I think that's why Todd Bowles is such a good coach and his staff, because they put in the time, they get these players ready. And I would anticipate, again, another hot start from the Buccaneers, because that's the level of expertise that they have in preparation, and it shows.
And I hope Coach Bowles challenges the Bucs this year, challenges players and everything like that, to start out 3-0. Because the last 2 years, they began 2-0, and it's like, oh, all right, they got some mojo here.
And they feel themselves a little bit.
Yes. And they slip and fall in week 3. Now, 2 seasons ago, they were playing the Eagles, and it was Monday Night Football, and it was a big-time thing, and the Eagles are a really good team. But last year, and they ended up being a good team, even a playoff team.
Right.
But many people were ready to anoint the Bucs, and myself included, a 3-0 team by being at home and defeating the Denver Broncos. And that did not happen. And that was probably up until losing the playoffs, because you never want your season to end.
Right.
I would say the top 3 losses for the Bucs, that first one certainly was the loss to the Broncos. The other one being when they fell to Dallas late.
Yeah.
But that was a little one where you had to come back down to earth, and it started once again the slippery slope.
Right.
The Bucs going on a losing streak. Now this year, again, very winnable game against the Falcons. You're not sure what you're going to get from Michael Penix. A tough game against the Texans, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But the Bucs certainly have all of the horses to go and win that game.
Yeah.
And then you get your home opener against the New York Football Jets. You should be 3-0 to start that season.
I like your thinking.
Yeah. So then we went down memory lane just a little bit, talking with Todd Bowles about Super Bowl 55 when he was the defensive coordinator and put on a chef's kiss masterclass of defensive play calling. One of the best defensive play calling we've ever seen from Todd Bowles. Really rivaled that playoff game against the Eagles 2 seasons ago. So you guys asked him about how much he reflects on that game, if he does reflect on that game. And it was also cool, the follow-up about that. He could be one of the first people ever to win a Super Bowl as a player, an assistant coach, up in the front office, and then as a head coach as well. So here's Coach Bowles talking about Super Bowl 55 and what was really special about that win.
I don't think it's anything you can reflect on until you retire, because there's always something coming up the next day and the current day. The only time I reflect on it is when I look at the quarterbacks we faced, and it's not really just the Super Bowl, but it was Mahomes, Rodgers, and Breeze all at the same time. And I think they're three of the greatest quarterbacks that played the game, amongst a few others. But that part of it, the run was pretty impressive defensively, because we had got a bunch of turnovers in each game.
You're one of likely one of only a number of men that has ever won a Super Bowl as a player with the Redskins, Super Bowl 22, as an executive with the Packers, that was Super Bowl 31, and then as an assistant coach with the Bucs back in Super Bowl 55. If you win a Super Bowl as a head coach, you may be the only person in NFL history to win 4 different Super Bowls in 4 different NFL capacities. Did you know that? And how much does this quest for a Super Bowl with this team drive you?
I did not know that. And, it drives me every year. The biggest goal you can have as a coach is to win the Super Bowl, whether you're a head coach, assistant coach, or whatever. I've done it at every level. So for us to win one with me as the head coach would be outstanding. And that's what we're hungry for.
The 2 biggest things for me was, one, the disrespect to Taylor Heineke, to not mention him with all the other quarterbacks. No, I kid. The other, Bowles, I certainly do not think did this intentionally by any means, but when he was like, yeah, I've won everywhere. Like that was like the cockiest you'll ever see Todd Bowles. And it was the most like monotone way.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because I got to pat myself in the back a little bit. I'm not really a stats guy. I mean, Josh Capo comes up with stats.
Yeah, he's a stats
Billy
guy.
Adams does the stats as well, right? So I actually am sitting here thinking like, wow, this is interesting. I mean, Todd's won as an executive, as a player, as obviously the defensive coordinator here. And I don't know if there's somebody else that has won 4 Super Bowls, including a head coach. Maybe that's the case, but he certainly has a chance to be in rarefied air. That hasn't happened an awful lot, right? That would be a really interesting thing. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Fame coach or anything like that, but boy, what a distinction. If he could pull off a Super Bowl here in Tampa Bay as a head coach, to have 4 different Super Bowl rings in 4 different capacities. I was like, wow, Reynolds, like that's a damn good stat.
Yeah.
You just pulled out of thin air there. But yeah, I mean, that would be a pretty cool distinction.
Yeah, and you deserve all the praise for that question, because
That's just
it's
lucky,
great
man.
research. And
every once in a while, a blind squirrel finds it. That was me.
It's interesting with Coach Bowles, because I think a lot of people on the outside, on like other non-Bucs podcasts and shows and stuff, they find Todd Bowles like kind of dry and stoic for sure, and sometimes they really don't know what he's doing.
Well, it's kind of easy to see why sometimes, because he does kind of present that, right? It's not like it's not like they have it wrong. It's just that there's more to Todd Bowles than what he typically shows.
Yes, and I don't think, because we talk to him so much during press conferences and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Like we know a little bit more of his quick wit humor, or like when he's being sarcastic and things of that nature. But I think this is where Todd Bowles really started opening up a little bit more. And part of it is because you got him to crack up a little bit, but talking about how he needs to remain calm, cool, and collected, so everybody else can kind of panic, but he'll ease everybody's tensions. Right. And then talking about how he'll yell during the week, but on Sundays or whenever game day is, that's when you get the Todd Bowles, that everybody sees on camera.
Yeah. I'm sure Coach Arians too taught you all about your feisty, fiery sideline demeanor, that you're known for, Coach.
Oh yeah, it's a very emotional game, and the smile is the only way I can't get a 15-yard penalty. So, it can be a whole bunch of things. It can be a eek, it can be a cuss word, it can be eureka, it can be a whole bunch of things. But you have to get back. I think ever since I've been here, we've been young kind of in the secondary on defense somewhere. Yeah. And when we got here, I think it was Dean Bunning, Mike Edwards, and all those guys were very young. And then Winfield came. So it's important that you communicate. I yell all during the week. I can get my yelling out during the week. Monday through Saturday, I can get it all out. Sunday, it's almost laser focused. Like, what do you do next? It's almost like playing chess. You have to be looking at the next move. So you've never heard a chess player yelling at the other side of the board before he makes his next move. I know this game is a lot more emotional and high strung than the chess is, but you try to keep your emotions over wraps on some things. And then a lot of times the camera's just not on me when I'm doing certain things, and they just point out the little stuff. So that's just part of it.
I thought that was great.
It was fantastic, and I started cracking up when he began talking about chess, because I certainly don't think Todd Bowles knew this, but there's a viral video going on in the chess world, and I don't know how to play chess, but that's how big this video has gotten. Okay. Apparently, there's this the greatest chess player ever hasn't lost in 100,000 games or whatever. His name's Magnus. He's Swedish or something. And he lost, and he slams the table and then walks out after shaking hands. He lost to a 19-year-old prodigy named Gukesh or something like that. So it's just so funny that was relevant in the news, and Todd Bowles is bringing up chess.
Right.
In the one time it was kind of a strenuous high stakes situation where someone kind of lost their cool. But that kind of segued into, we all know that Todd Bowles yelling behind the scenes, maybe that was a little bit earlier in his days. Now it's a little more just trash talk, sarcasm, and he always dishes it out to the players. But then we want to know what players dish it back to Todd Bowles. Who's got the gusto to give it back to the head coach? And that's where we had one of our most surprising and, if not shocking, reveals.
Ooh. Talk back to me. Will Golston, when he was here, he did a heck of a job talking back to me. Dean always talks back. Levante, I get a few zingers in there here and there, and he gets some in at the same time. Vita is a very sarcastic player at the same time, so he gets shots in. Yaya will stay away from me. He gets it. He knows. He just nods and say, yes, coach, because of any other answer, he's probably going to get it 10 times worse.
Right.
And Tristan off the field, when we run by each other in the hallway, he gets a couple of shots in there here and there, but it's just a matter of time. And of all people, Chase, the kicker of all people, the relationship we have. Oh, yeah, Chase is. He goes from dad jokes to taking a few shots at me here and there. So we have a pretty good time at that. And, I think I got him last, so I think I got one coming from him.
That's a bit of a shocker right there, I think. Yeah.
That's everybody gets it.
You could have given me, it's a 53-man roster. You could have given me, let's just say 45 guesses out of the 53.
And Chase McLaughlin wouldn't have been one of them, right?
Would not have even come close. He probably would have been my 49th guess.
Right.
Leaving only the long snapper and the punter and maybe one other player. That was one of the most shocking things that I've ever seen.
Well, it's interesting, too, because it wasn't in the clip, but Todd Bowles said he started off as a yeller and a screamer. That's kind of how he was, and he's just mellowed out in his old age. So, really good stuff. I mean, again, you're kind of seeing a different side of Todd Bowles that when I say we, Matt and I, the Pewter reporters who were there at One Buck Place, we see every once in a while, right? But this is not going to be press conference Todd. Typically, it's not going to be the Todd that you're going to see, before the game when ESPN or Fox does like a little snippet interview with him or whatever. But this is the side that the players see. This is the side that endears the players to Todd Bowles, that makes him a player's coach, that really allows this team to dig out of those holes that injuries and screw ups have struck the last 2 years. But to their credit, Todd Bowles and this team have rebounded and still won the division, still made the playoffs, and ended up with 3 division championships. No other Bucs head coach has done that in a row to start their career. Now, John Gruden had 3 himself in 2002, 2005, and 2007, but that was over 7 years. That wasn't in his first 3. And Matt, I think you would agree, chances are pretty good that Todd Bowles goes 4 for 4 here in 2025 with this team, as long as they can stay healthy.
I would be very surprised if the Bucs did not, and that's why we've talked about on the show the Bucs not just winning the division, but winning it with a game or 2 to spare. I think that's the next step for this team, at least within the conversations and the confines of the division. Yeah. Certainly, there are more steps to be taken once they are in the postseason playing other teams in the NFC. So hopefully they can play an AFC team with the Super Bowl. Now, one person Bowles did not mention in that clip was Baker Mayfield. And Bailey Adams did ask it a little bit later. Does Baker talk trash to you? Because we know Baker talks trash to a lot of people. And it turns out Baker is not talking any smack to Todd Bowles because he's got another coach on his radar.
Conspicuous by his absence was Baker Mayfield. Does Baker get in your ear a little bit, or what's your relationship kind of like with him?
My relationship with Baker is outstanding. We talk, but Baker has an ongoing feud with Larry Foote. Foot makes me look like a preschooler as far as talking smack to players, and Baker is the same way. And there's a lot of back and forth in camp going on and in practice going on. But Larry Foote is the ring leader. He is the Don King of this building, and he's going to talk till the cows come home. And Baker does not have time for me because Foote occupies 100% of his time.
Again, just another very surprising reveal from Todd Bowles. Like, I never would have thought the quarterback of a team would be getting in a fight with not an actual physical fight, but we'll get to that in a little bit, with a defensive coach. So that was really great to see. Yeah. And then kind of one last thing on this topic, and then we'll get to something a little bit different. Jokes aside, with all the sarcasm with his players and stuff like that, the players love Todd Bowles, and Todd is certainly a player's coach. So a really great question that came from this was, who does Todd Bowles see on this current roster that could be future coaches at any level, really, if they want to be a head coach? And another interesting, he gave 4 players. One in particular stood out to me a little bit more.
Which current players do you see as future football coaches on this Bucs roster, and why?
Ooh, on this roster, I think Levante can coach if he wants to coach, because he's very bright, and he has a bright football mind on both sides of the ball. I think Kyle Trask will be a good football coach. Kyle has a very broad mind, both sides of the ball, and he understands the game very well from that standpoint. The other guy that's a very sharp player, Anthony Nelson, is a very polished guy. He can coach ball if he wants to, because he's a very good technician. And he understands what to do and how to relay it all the time. So Vita, if he wanted to really be a coach, he could be a coach, because he's played offense in high school and he understands the game very well. So there's a few guys that really kind of step up and kind of, you can tell that they can be coaches if they want to be.
I got to say, Scott, the one that kind of stood out to me the most is when he mentioned Kyle Trask, because Levante makes sense. He's already a leader of the team.
Right.
And again, this is all in the preface of if they wanted to be head coach. It's not like, it's not like Vita Vea is aspiring to be one.
Right.
But Bowles' reasoning for Vita Vea makes sense, knowing that he played running back in high school. And Anthony Nelson has been around the block with this team.
Well, he loves Anthony Nelson, right? I mean, that's the thing. Anthony Nelson is the new Will Golston. And you know what? I even wrote about this in the Monday mailbag. So, we had a question that said, who might be the surprise cut, right? And I'm sitting here thinking, well, gosh, all right. I don't know that there's going to be any surprise cuts. I really don't. This is kind of like a cut and dry roster here. I think I mentioned wide receivers like Trey Palmer, Sterling Shepard. Are those going to be surprises? Then I was looking for something on the defensive side just to kind of like fill out the space. I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of offense, or I should say outside linebackers, right? The first four are kind of set in stone, right? You've got Hassan Reddick, Yaya Diaby, Chris Braswell, the second-round pick, and then you've got David Walker, who's created a lot of buzz over there. And then they're going to keep 5. So that's going to be Anthony Nelson. And then I wrote, unless what happens if like Marquise Watts or Jose Ramirez blows up with like 5 sacks in 3 preseason games or something. They're not cutting Anthony Nelson. Like I'm just going to, I want to go back and just erase all that because Nelly is just a Todd Bowles guy. He is the new Will Golston on this team. That steady Eddie that Todd just can't live without. And so, yeah, that's why he was included there. And then we also see his affection for Kyle Trask. He loves Kyle Trask, just absolutely loves him. And Michael Pratt might have a spot on this team as the number 3 quarterback. They'll duke it out for number 2, but Todd Bowles loves him some Kyle Trask.
He really does. And it just surprised me, not that he likes Kyle Trask, but because Trask, even talking to him in the locker room, he's just like the chillest, most laid-back guy that, sometimes you need a little more rah-rah if you're a coach, if you're trying to motivate players. Like Todd can motivate players. I don't necessarily know if Kyle Trask can, even being a quarterback, if he has to get into a game. Yeah. But nonetheless, that was Bowles' answer. Let's get to some super chats, too.
Let's do it.
Meets McGee, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, you guys make it so hard to watch other shows. Your informative shows. If your informative show was a baseball player, it would be Barry Bonds. And then it says meaning super powerful because we all know
that. Yeah.
Scott's disdain for baseball.
I get it. I do know who Barry Bonds is.
So, yeah, I think everyone.
Yeah, right.
Anyone that covers sports probably knows Barry Bonds. Beast McGee had another $5 super chat. Thank you. Who says my favorite Bowles line? ... Levante waves me off. I give him the finger.
Yeah.
That was from a press conference he had.
Right.
Day,
Appreciate that.
Which was fantastic as well. So
yeah. Well, and listen, this I hope you all are appreciating kind of Matt's commentary on this. And I went back and I watched the podcast again because sometimes you miss things when you. I mean, we do this with our press conferences, Matt. We'll sit there and we're there. We ask questions. We jot stuff down. We do social media clips and stuff. But then you kind of go back and listen to it for the podcast. You're like, oh, you kind of catch little things that are there, but maybe didn't jump out at you. And this podcast was full of them. Yeah. So much so that Good Morning Football has asked for permission to put it on. And as Nathan Elliott said, the Todd Bowles interview popped up on Good Morning Football. Awesome. They did a Baker Todd Bowles comparison. I think we have that clip coming up a little bit here.
Why don't we just play it now? This was this was Todd Bowles talking about his favorite quarterback and why is it Baker Mayfield? But he kind of goes through the chronological order of quarterbacks that he worked with.
Coach, wishing you the best in the upcoming season. Can you share your thoughts on your favorite quarterback to coach and why is it Baker Mayfield? If you couldn't tell by his name, he's the AKA OG Baker Bro. So he wants you to wax poetic about it.
All right, let me explain this the right way. So I had a very good relationship with Jameis when he was here off the field. He was very good with my kids at the gym. Just a great guy, just competing against him when he always comes across and shakes my hand. Tom was unbelievable. You can't say enough about Tom and his football IQ. We could read each other and understand without saying a word. Baker's probably, if I was an outward personality, Baker would be the guy I probably would be. So we have more in common than you really think. He just shows a little more. I probably wouldn't have did the Tommy DeVito, but at the same time, I could think it, but he doesn't, I think. So I think we're kind of interconnected that way, and we're kind of just fraternal twins, so to speak.
Baker Mayfield is your spirit animal, is what you're saying.
Yes, he is.
That part at the end, the spirit animal, was fantastic.
Yeah, and apparently it's, I don't know if it's aired or not, but NFL Network, or actually I should say ESPN also used or asked permission to use that clip as well. So we're getting some good traction on ESPN and NFL Network today. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Always a good thing. So we did talk some X's and O's with Todd Bowles as well. We want to know a lot about the coverage and how that's going to look. And if there's going to be more of a match coverage this year, following other receivers and things like that. And this was Todd's response.
I think the game has changed from 3 or 4 years ago because they don't really let you match a lot anymore. To play match coverage, you got to be left, you got to be middle, you got to be the slot, you got to be the right corner. And depending on the coverage, everything changes for you. And if you haven't gotten all those reps in there, you're going to be a fish out of water. And to be honest, you're going to be a fish out of water. So even when we traveled Carlton, he traveled, but then if his guy was inside, he just went out further. He went out all the way outside because the comfortability and the things you have to teach him in there would take so long for him to learn during that game week that it was hard to do. But they come over in the slot a lot. And if the matchups, it's not just about those guys matching up, is can we match up with the tight end? Can we match up with the running back? If you got this guy and say he can take them away, what about the other 3 guys?
Yeah.
If you don't feel good about those matchups, you really don't want to match up too many times. But we have that capability. And I think this year, with the additions of Morrison and Parrish, and along with Zion and obviously Dean, I think we can do some things like that and match up personnel because they're kind of all interchangeable in certain man coverages.
Good stuff right there. And I, that's one thing that's kind of been a little curious to me is are we going to see more matchups like that? And Zion kind of alluded to that a little bit. I think when he was on with us talking about, he's like, yeah, I may not be great against the smaller, quicker wide receivers like Darnell Mooney, for example, right? He was like 5'9", plays for the Falcons. Whereas a more linear, straight line guy like Xavier Worthy, he just completely erased in that Chiefs game. So I think you're going to see now with some different body types, a 5'10" Jacob Parrish might be on a Darnell Mooney, right? Where Zion or Jamel Dean, bigger guys, might be on Drake London more, whether they're in the slot, as Drake London likes to be sometimes, or whether they're outside.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned with Zion kind of mentioned disguising things and other things of that nature. And Bowles seems really open to. First of all, I thought it was so interesting though, just talking about how different the game has changed even 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah,
when he was calling a defense. So I think just always kind of constantly learning was one of the biggest things that I took away from it.
Yeah. Well, I'm about ready to teach y'all something that you may not know, but it's not just playoff time, but it's finals time, right? For NBA, for NHL. If you want a place to go to watch all the action when it comes to these sports other than football, because it's not football season yet, do it at Walk-Ons. They got a great happy hour. And also Walk-Ons is a fantastic place to go for Father's Day to celebrate the day with all of Dad's favorite players, drinks, and all the sports. There's nothing that's going to make Dad happy like taking them to Walk-Ons, especially with the happy hour menus that they have. Their happy hour on Wednesdays and Thursdays, they have 2 of them. That's how cool it is. It's from 3 to 6 and then from 9 to close. So if you can't make it to one of those days for happy hour, and I'm not sure what day, and if Father's Day is on a Sunday. Yeah. So there isn't a happy hour there, but he's going to be happy any hour that you take him there. See what I'm doing right there? Make sure you head to Walk-Ons for that happy hour menu. 3 to close on Mondays, also Tuesdays, all day happy hour plus $5 Tito's. Eat like a winner, drink like a champ. At Walk-Ons, 3 Tampa Bay area locations to serve you: Midtown Tampa, Lakeland, and Wesley Chapel.
On that topic of the corners and how they're going to look, towards the end of the show, Bowles got a question about why does he always play the corners so off? He doesn't want to.
Yeah.
He had to.
Not being rude when I ask. Honestly, want to know your thinking. Why do you like to play our outside corners so far off all the time?
Honestly, Chad, I do not. And, that's something we're working through right now, and that is not required by the staff. And, the communication that we have in the situation, these guys got to understand, being young corners, that they have to move up more. And we've talked about it probably all year. I would like to see them up as well, and I will see them up a lot more. And there's only a few instances where you will see them back, and I'm on the same page with you. So I certainly understand.
And they're going to pick off a lot more passes as a result, right?
That will be key. If we can shut them out and pick off passes in the process, I'm happy.
Amen, Coach Bowles.
Hallelujah! That's what everybody wants to
Praise.
hear. Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's irritating for you, the Pewter people. It's just as irritating for us. We're sitting here watching this, whether it's at the stadium or on TV. We're like, holy smokes, Dean, what are you doing 8 yards off
Yeah.
the line of scrimmage? They only need 7 for a first down, right? It's 3rd and 7. Why are you playing so far off? And same thing with Zion and whoever's out there at corner, Josh Hayes. So yes, that's something Zion kind of tipped us off about, something the Bulls has certainly mentioned as well. They will be playing closer, sometimes to disguise those. Sometimes it'll be more press man. Sometimes it might be a bail technique, but they're showing that. And what they're really trying to avoid is giving that quarterback that gimme slant, that gimme quick little out that if you need 7 yards and it's 3rd and 7, and the quarterback's going to throw it to the receiver who's at 6 yards, right? Because there's no defensive back within 6 or 7 yards. You can catch it and fall forward for a yard and pick up the first down. That happened too much, and the interceptions didn't happen enough. Well, when you play that far off, you're just not going to get the picks and the pass breakups. So hopefully now everybody's going to be on the same page. Bowles, the players, Kevin Ross. And Matt, we even saw that on Tuesday at the OTA. Yeah. We saw a different kind of drill where Kevin Ross really had those cornerbacks. And really, it was a man-to-man drill, too. And we were even thinking, are we going to see more man-to-man this year rather than zone?
Yeah, it was just giving the corners different looks, things that we haven't really seen them drill before in practice. And I think that helps when you're going with 11-on-11s or even 7-on-7s. And that's why Benjamin Morrison, made the big play against Emeka Egbuka. And for years, we've seen, I shouldn't say 4 years, but for the past couple of seasons, we saw like Trevor Siemian have a big game against the Bucs a couple of years ago when Jameis was on the Saints and he got hurt and Siemian came in. And making quarterbacks too comfortable was an issue for this team. And part of it was the corners and the defensive backs being so far away. That's why the Falcons were able to come back against the Bucs on that Thursday night game, because everything was so wide open over the middle of the field. So, that was big.
As I say, and speaking of corners, we also talked about the nickels too.
That they did.
Because of the opponents we play, it's not just the short, quick receivers anymore. Yeah. We get the 6'2", 220 receivers that really block. And if you're a quick, small slot corner, they're just going to manhandle you in the run game, and they're going to keep running around the corner. So Tyke was a nickel because he could handle all that, and he was very good in zone coverage, and he was very patient in man coverage. We didn't put him in man a lot, but he could play man, and he can take on the run like an outside backer. So he fit certain schemes. And then Parrish is very fast and very quick shifted. And depending on the team we play, that's a passing team most of the time, he could fit some of the roles in there. And Zion, whether it's a big tight end or whether it's a big receiver, when he goes in there from a size standpoint, and he has the quickness and the strength and the power to hang with them all. So he becomes that guy. And then Izzy was probably our most explosive guy in zone coverage, getting from point A to B and breaking things down and recognizing, and he was a heck of a tackler. So they're all different, but depending on who we play, what fits the bill that week, depending on how many things we can rotate. The biggest thing is try to rotate them in without having to substitute. That's what you really want to do.
Yeah, so just seeing the different style of nickel corners that they'll have at that position. And, maybe it is a series or two. Maybe it's the whole game. Just having like all these different options for the team, I think is something that Bowles didn't have before, and now he feels that he has it. Yeah,
and I think 2 takeaways there that were kind of important to note. Number one, he said, we'd like to do it without making substitutions, right? So it's not a thing where, Drake London's in the slot, right? So Zion's going to go in the slot, and we'll bring in somebody else from the outside corner. It might be a thing where Jacob Parrish moves to the outside, right? If he's on the field as a nickel, or if they are going to make a substitution, maybe that's when Benjamin Morrison comes on and he is the outside corner, whereas Simon McCollum then goes inside against a bigger slot receiver that he can run with and cover in, whether it be zone or man in the slot. So some pretty interesting stuff there. And I don't know that we're going to see a 17-game wire-to-wire starter like we saw with Christian Izzian as the slot, as the nickel corner in his rookie season 2 years ago, or even Tyke Smith, who would have been that wire-to-wire guy had he not missed a couple games, one with a concussion and a couple with a knee injury. But in other words, there might be several different starting nickels this year, depending on who they play, what types of coverages and schemes that Todd Bowles wants to run against those different teams as personnel.
And I think that's totally fine. If you want to mix guys around, that makes it tougher for the opponent to game plan for what you think they might do in a certain situation. So they always talk about cross-training guys, whether it's both safety positions or the corners at different spots or in the slot. I think that's great for this team to have. Really, the biggest thing is have players that Todd Bowles can rely on. Right. That's been one of the biggest things for him. Can he trust you? Can he give you information, you understand the information, and you're able to go out and execute? That's always been one of the biggest things for Todd Bowles, is just take the information, go out and execute. And one player that's really been able to do that plays a different position. But that's defensive tackle Calijah Kancey. And Calijah Kancey has been making some bold statements this year saying that, he believes that he can lead the league in sacks this year. But does Todd Bowles feel the same? This was his response.
What is the limit for you? Like, does the limit exist? And Calijah said that he believes he can lead the league in sacks if he's healthy for the full year. That number, league-leading number, going back, 2020 or so, it's been 18.5. Do you think he can reach that goal?
I think he can get close. I think he can get awfully close. If he's healthy for 17 games, the way he's learned the game, Calijah is not just a quick player. He's a very smart player, and he's very strong. He understands how people are trying to attack him. He understands what he can attack and when to attack it. Being in the scheme now for 2 years, he has a better grasp of everything, and he does some great things, and a lot of times the ball is out. So if the chips fall right, yes, I think he can get that.
Do you believe he can get it, Scott?
No, because
I don't.
That's at least a sack a game, right? To get to 17, and I want to say outside linebackers have a better shot at that. The T.J. Watts, the Trey Hendricksons, those are the players that do that. Aaron Donald was just a freak, and I think back in the day when you saw Warren Sapp and Leroy Glover battling for that, 16, 17 sack seasons, that was back when teams had the 5 and the 7 step drops, right? Where the quarterbacks held onto the ball a little too long. They wanted to wait till those receivers got downfield. The go ball was more of a thing back then. And that just bought time for defensive tackles to split double teams. Because when you're the premier guy, whether you're an Aaron Donald or Warren Sapp or whoever, you're going to get the center and the guard. It takes a little bit of time to free up yourself, not just from one guy, but two. Can Calijah Kancey lead this team in sacks again? Absolutely. Can he do it as a double-digit sacker? Yes. I think there's a world where Calijah Kancey gets 10, maybe 11 sacks, and then Hassan Reddick or Yaya Diaby also is a double-digit guy. I think that world is possible. Where's the ceiling for Calijah Kancey? I mean, if I had to say, I would say 12 sacks might be kind of his ceiling. That's a lot for a defensive tackle in this day and age when the football comes out so quickly.
No joke. In my head, I was thinking right before 13 or 14. So in other words, 12. I was thinking right around that. And all I know is Calijah Kancey is going to have a productive season. He's going to be an impact player.
There's no doubt. Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be 19 sacks
for
him to help the Bucs win.
Yeah.
He just needs to be on the field, and he's going to help the Bucs win regardless of what the stats have to say. But we got 2 more videos to play. This is more on the fun side once again to kind of close things out. We'll start it with Todd Bowles and the street fight, who he wants having his back.
This is a bit of a wild card question for me, just because sometimes I'm a bit of a wild card myself. Let's hope this doesn't happen, Coach. But if you're in a street fight, which Bucs player are you picking on your roster to back you up?
Does it have to be a player? Can it be a coach?
Let's go with both. Which coach on your staff would you want backing you up in a street fight? Not that anyone's going to pick on Todd Bowles, but
the coach is Kevin Ross. The corner's coach. Kevin Ross. He was a wrestler in high school, and he was an all-state guy. And Kev is Marvin Hagler. He's Marvin Hagler Jr., so I'm okay going with Kev.
Okay.
And player in a fight, I'm taking Godwin. I'm taking Chris Godwin.
You're taking Chris Godwin over Vita Vea?
Vita got size. Chris got toughness.
Okay. I'm not knocking Chris. I'm just saying, like, to me, I would think the obvious choice would be
Vita is George Foreman, and Chris is Muhammad Ali. So that's the difference. I'm not saying he's not tough and a brawler, but I think I'm taking Godwin.
My mind is blown, Coach.
Yeah,
you're
I like
defensive
that.
coach, and you're picking an offensive player. What's going on, Todd?
I'll take Godwin, or I'll take Levante.
Okay, wow.
Too funny. We spoke about it on yesterday's show. I'm going with Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah.
I think, again, wrestling background, which Bowles mentioned about Kevin Ross, and the way he protects people. That's literally what he does as as an offensive lineman. And then to round out these highlight videos, Todd Bowles is a day one guy, and you'll understand more after this video.
This is from Cruz on the radio, $10 super chat. Much love, Coach Bowles. You've been in the league for a long time. What's one locker room or sideline moment that still makes you laugh?
Ooh, wow, that's a lot. For me, I go back to when I was a player, my rookie and my second year back in 86, 87, and I got to the locker room. My pregame ritual for that a couple games was to eat Chippeways and milk before the game in the locker room while I'm sitting there getting taped up and getting ready. And that at the time, there was no health and nutritionist or nothing like that. So I look back now and it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever done. And I laugh at myself every time somebody reminds me of that. That is probably one of the funniest moments I can recall.
He's a professional football player having milk and cookies before a game. And then it went on to win a Super Bowl.
Exactly. I mean, he has talked openly about his Chips Ahoy milk addiction, folks. So we're not breaking any news here. This is something he's addressed publicly in a couple of press conferences. As a matter of fact, sometimes we in the media will even surprise him. I think Jen Elaine is kind of the ringleader there.
Yeah, because his birthday is later in the season.
Exactly. So he comes out to the podium. There's a little box of Chips Ahoy and a little thing of milk, and he cracks up and he laughs. And
oh my God, this year we should try to tape like a picture of like when he was playing in 1986 or something like that, like on the cookies or like on the milk, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to say it was the Jaguars game. It was the Christmas Eve game. The Buccaneers won that game, and yours truly, I did present him with a little snack-sized box of Chips Ahoy in the locker room after the game for his ride home. And he started cracking up about it. I'm like, here you go, Coach. Congrats on the win. Merry Christmas, And he's so the Chips Ahoy's cracking up. So it's kind of an inside joke with the media, but he owned up to it. And this has been an addiction that has unfortunately started way back when.
Well, it's not in that video, but he went on to say he's 6 months on and 6 months off.
Right.
So you have Bowles when he's in cookie season and when he's out of cookie season.
Exactly.
I think he said off season he doesn't have the cookies, but then in season he does have the cookies after games and stuff like that.
I know. The one follow-up question that I'm killing myself that I didn't ask is, have you sought an endorsement deal with Chips Ahoy?
Yeah.
Because it seems like a natural fit right there. But
it absolutely is.
Yeah. So great stuff from Coach Bowles. He's, I think, really did a great job of kind of presenting himself. And I remember too, like when I had really my first kind of sit down in his office one-on-one for like an hour with Todd Bowles, about 15 minutes in, I'm like, who are you? Like,
right.
like, where's this Todd Bowles? This is crazy. So just got a text here from Mike Beal, who's a
friend of the program.
Friend of the program, yeah. Just texted me, says, congrats on the podcast making ESPN. So the Bucs vice president of player personnel just happened to see us on ESPN.
It'll be Beal next time. He'll be the ESPN on ESPN next time.
Exactly, yeah. And we just got a picture of that sent here in the PR group chat. So Very cool. Yeah. Well, it's cool to, that the Todd Bowles video made an impact, so much so that the national outlets are reporting it. And listen, we thank you all very much for watching the show and for allowing us to kind of do a little bit of an analysis of the podcast, because it was really good. If it sucked, we wouldn't be doing it. But Todd Bowles delivered, right? I mean, I thought we had some good questions, but boy, did he have some great answers, and we greatly appreciate all of those last couple questions. The ones that we featured there got some great responses, and those were from our Pewter people, from you guys, right? And we want to take the time, as we always do, to thank our Pewter Platinum members on the show: Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Eric McMillan, Connor For Reals, Kevin Thomas, Mario Thomas, Zach Jarvis, and Leighton Carter, our Pewter Platinum members. We'll see some of you, hopefully most of you, at our get-together next week. Time and location will be emailed to you. We've already done that once. We're happy to do it again. I do need the email addresses for RP89, Ash Fishpool, Connor For Reals, and John Dale Morris. I'm not sure if you're in the Tampa area, in Florida, or where you are around the country. We don't get all that information from YouTube. So I need those emails so I can tell you where the get-together is. Mike Greenberg will be in attendance, as well as Zion McCollum, who told me yesterday he's excited to come as well. So we got a couple cool people. In addition to the Pewter Report staff, we're kind of cool too. We'll be there, and we're looking forward to it. That's going to be next week. So make sure you reach out to me if I don't have your email address, so I can give you the details. And we had so much fun with Todd Bowles. We're going to have just as much fun with Jason Light, maybe even play some AC/DC or some Metallica on the show. Who knows? Yeah.
So if you enjoy asking questions to Todd Bowles, you can have your chance with Jason Light as well. So that is Monday's show. That's coming up at 4 p.m. Tomorrow we have another episode at 4 p.m. breaking down the Bucs players PFF rankings of the 2025 season. And, of course, our Pewter Insider on Friday for Pewter Platinum and Premier members. Can the Bucs win a Super Bowl? With Todd Bowles, the TODD, who was just on the show the other day. So a lot of stuff still coming up. We're still going to have shows throughout the entire season 4 times a week. So if you're not already doing so, please make sure you're following us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. We just got over 19,200 subscribers, so we are on the way to 20,000 subscribers. Tell your friends, tell a friend, and let everybody know about the Pewter Report podcast, which has now been seen on the Pat McAfee Show and ESPN and Good Morning Football and the NFL Network. So, we're growing to different places, and we appreciate everybody's support. Also, before we end the show, have to give a quick shout out. Some good news came about. Where was it? Some good news came about. First of all, there was a Bucs fan. Robbie Gordon was the one spreading the news about this, but Robbie Gordon's friend, Greg S., he's the OG Bucs fan from Pennsylvania. Greg S. isn't on social media too much, but Robbie Gordon wants everybody to know that Greg S., the OG of Pennsylvania Bucs fans, is now cancer-free. So congratulations to Greg.
That's great news.
Fantastic to see. We are so happy for you, Greg. We saw Robbie talking about it on social media. He reached out to us as well. But congratulations, Greg S. Thank you to Robbie for reaching out to us. Shout out to Greg S. Cancer-free. That's awesome. The best news we could ever hear.
No doubt.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. And so happy that you are doing better.
Thank you all so much for not only watching the Todd Bowles podcast, but also our analysis of it today. So that was really cool. And we're looking forward to having, like I said, Jason Light. We also have some other special guests lined up over the summer. So it's not going to be just filler shows in the summer. We have some blockbuster guests lined up for the summer. We'll announce those at later dates, but you're going to want to stay tuned, because even after the OTAs and the mini camps are over, we have a lot of content to talk about this summer. This is going to be a big Buccaneer season, perhaps a super Buccaneer season. And there's a lot to talk about with the top 50 players. I was asked by the Buccaneer organization to come up with my 50 players ranked from 1 to 50 for their 50th year. And I will be revealing later this summer, probably do a podcast on it, my top 50 Buccaneers. And then we also have the conglomerate Pewter Report list as well to get to. So a lot of cool stuff coming your way this summer, but still a lot of football on deck. We have 3 important days next week with those mandatory minicamp dates, plus Jason Light on Monday.
Exactly. So stay tuned, folks. That'll do it for us on today's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.